Hi, hello, hi, and welcome to all our hearts and minds. Thank you again for tuning in. We're here to discuss all things that have been on our hearts and minds the good, the bad, the concerning, and uplifting, or just straight talk. We're your hosts, Kimi, our passionate heart,
Yeah, yeah.
and me, Jeanette, our mind and chronic overthinker. Let's get into it.
Yes.
Okay, so we're
Mm-hmm.
back. We're back for a new episode this week. Last week, we had some obligations. It was
Mm-hmm.
Father's Day. I had a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had a conflict, but listeners trust and believe that we're always trying to push to make sure we have an episode every week for you, no matter what. And
You know,
so we're
we're
back with a new
trying. We're
one,
trying.
and we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep it nice and fun for y'all. First of all, we're just gonna check in. Last week, we'll just like so. What happened last week? How was your Father's Day? So, what did you do?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, my father was actually in Saint Lucia with my mom. They were coming back on Father's Day, so unfortunately, I didn't get to spend time with him. But we're gonna do something tomorrow.
okay, nice, nice.
Yeah,
Um,
but overall, it was a good Father's Day. Celebrated my husband and
yes,
his
yep.
his brother and his father on Father's Day, and it really is nice to actually celebrate a black man as a
Mm-hmm.
father. It's
Yes.
something to really behold. But yeah, overall, my whole week, Father's Day included, was pretty good. Don't really have much to complain about. I had a little bit of back pain. I don't know what kind of bandulu business I was sleeping
No.
in the night, Virgin, but
Oh
my back hurt me. Okay, it hurt me. So,
no.
I had to stretch it out and I had to try to make it on into work. And it was one of those days that I was going into the office. So I had to drop Faith off, then go to work. And my baka hurt me, Virgin. And so, I had some Advils and, stretching and A535, which is my best friend right now. And yeah, but overall, I'm still alive and well. I was
Okay.
still, even with the back pain, I was still able to get out and go for a walk with the family. We try to do, a little walk after dinner and just,
Enjoy the nice weather and everything.
yeah, it was pretty decent last week. So, I can't complain. But overall, it was outside of the back pain and the A535. Outside of that, it was pretty good. How about you,
Okay.
girl? How was your week? How was it? Oh, yes, and where you went? How was that?
Okay, yeah. So I had a last weekend we did Father's Day was pretty tame because I had a wedding on the Saturday and I just couldn't muster up a lot of energy and we didn't plan anything ahead like my mom, it's hard
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and
Yeah, it is.
my dad's not fussy but it's always nice to do something but if you don't plan ahead on Mother's Day and Father's Day it's really hard to get like a nice little place to go to
It's
or
true.
whatever. So
It's
I always
true.
actually like to do the barbecue thing, but our barbecue is still in the garage, and they need to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how they're going to move it out from there. Um, and then on the Saturday, I went to a good wedding. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine. It's one of those. It's one of those friends I don't see. I definitely don't talk to every day, or especially with the pandemic. There's a lot of time where we didn't catch up for a while, but something we always said is that we would go to each other's weddings, and so she invited me, a friend from university. I know her from high school, but really got to know her in university. And she got married, and she got married to her university sweetheart. So it
Can
was
you imagine?
a beautiful
Jeez.
story, a very beautiful story to see that come to life and hear how they found each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy that they decided to make the commitment, regardless of distance, regardless of everything. There's a reason why you found each other again, and I'm glad to see how they've decided to hold tight to that and that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It was just nice to see. I saw a couple people that I went to university with, and it brought a lot of memories. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that in our workout. But
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Love is a beautiful thing, and it's always a nice reminder to see. And if there's any theme that I got in the past couple years from the weddings that I went to, especially knowing you and this
Mm-hmm.
wedding and another extended family wedding I'm going to next month, is hold true
You see what I'm
to
saying?
that relationship or that person, if there is a reason why, you say whether you were with them a long time or not, but there's a reason why you decided that, this is a person for me, or this is a person I could marry. And no matter
Mhm.
the back and forth, I think if you remain true to the fact of what you guys are together versus what you are apart, and you see the power in that,
Mhm.
then you should make sure you fight tooth and nail to keep that, because there's always going to be so many external factors. And I mean,
Oh,
maybe
so
you know
many.
more
Yeah.
than me, but just as a human being, we know, we've seen, um, lots of trials and tribulation mash up a relationship. If you're not strong in that relationship, or strong in your faith in God and keeping that relationship, and
Right?
God
Mhm.
overseeing you in that relationship, then a
Mhm.
lot of things can happen to dismantle, or dismantle you from the person that probably would have been the best partner for you, right? So
Mhm.
it was,
Mhm.
I would say that's the story I got out of it, and I was very happy to see my friend and her family rejoicing.
Yes, and big them up, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
Congratulations.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing.
I know her as well, from
Mhm,
high school.
mhm.
Got to know her. Well, I knew her pretty well in high school, and because we were on the basketball team at one point together, and
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
got to know her, and she's an awesome girl, like awesome woman, and I'm really happy for her. And one thing I must say about love is that no matter what, God has someone in store for all of us. You understand?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
even though they parted ways, they made it back together. Like they made it back to each other, which is awesome. When you told me, I was like, "What? Say word," because I remember him. I remember him, and people drift away. Things change, life changes, and so I'm
Mhm.
so happy that they made their way back to each other, and they're standing, like you said, hold true to your love, and it's
Yeah.
so nice to see that. So nice to see
Yes.
that. Yeah.
So that was my week, and yeah, so we'll move into headlines, and so we're gonna this show, we kind of want to have this be a shoot the shit, a kind of Irie, a kind of Lyman vibe kind of thing, where we're gonna keep it loose. We're still gonna give you our
Hmm.
topics and our headlines, but we're gonna keep it loose and easy for y'all. And
Yeah.
so, I had a fun story that I came across in the week, that I was like,
Hmm.
we've spoken about, real estate in Toronto, and you're on your, during your journey and finding a
Hmm.
place for,
Lord.
after you're married, getting married, and just having a permanent spot for a while. And now, if there's anything you guys remember about the episode, Toronto, where we reside, it
Yep.
is very competitive. The real estate market
Too
is
competitive, if you ask me.
very, very competitive. Whether you're, and it's not just buying. Buying is
No.
always a challenge, especially we hear all what the millennials and Gen
Yep.
Zs are saying. It is difficult to own in a city like this, where there's a lot of wealth and stuff like that, and a lot of people not, maybe with a certain household income. And so
Right.
I came across a headline this week. There is like, this is to tell you all where things stand in the city
Where
of
we're at
Toronto.
up in this piece,
So
B, because for real.
if you're thinking about coming to Toronto, uh, plan your finances. Just plan your finances. So
That's all
here,
I gotta tell you. That's all I gotta tell you.
so there is a landlord in Ontario, and the city, is, to be exact, is Ajax. It's a small little town in the east side of Toronto. And
Mm-hmm.
this landlord had the nerve to post on one of those rental sites, offering bedroom, a bedroom with one bed, to
The
share
nerve.
with a
The
stranger
nerve.
for 550 a month. And this is not, listen, Ajax is suburbs. It's not even like it's deep suburbs. It's like you need to go on a 35-40 minute above ground train ride to get into the city.
Thank
That's the
you.
fastest way you'll get into the city. If you drive, that's a whole nother
Oh,
story.
don't even
So
do it. Don't even
let's
do it.
assume, for driving, so listeners get the context. This is a minimum 1 hour drive in traffic to get to work. Minimum. That's being generous. So you're gonna pay $550 to sleep in a bed, one bed with a one person you've
Must
never
be
met in your life.
mad.
This should be on a. I am sorry. You either rent to a couple or some siblings. You don't. You have the nerve to post this, but that's to tell you how bad things
That's how.
are.
And you know what the joke is that before week is done, it will be rented. That's the joke. Is that it will be rented and it will be rented to soon.
Ooh, that's
It's
sad.
a real, yeah, it is sad, but there, it's like that or the street. Like at this
Well,
point, a lot of people are having hardship,
mhm.
and the price of rent is, anywhere. Not even owning. Let's just put that on the back burner for a sec. Even to just rent,
Well,
it's
yeah, this is a rental.
extremely competitive. It's high. It's very expensive.
Hmm.
And the saddest part about it is that it's steadily climbing, and it doesn't matter where you go, if whether you are in a, you choose to go with a private or a public, you know um
I
renter,
must. I
you're
must
gonna have the
say.
same issue. You will
I
have the
must.
same issue. Hmm.
Yeah. Regardless, I must say the house is very beautiful. It is not a dingy, like sometimes you see these postings, but the principle alone is very unconscionable.
Listen, I'm not
But
sleeping in no room with people I don't know. Not only
yeah,
that, for that type of money, I should have more than just a bed. Like
and I
even for
think,
$500, like $550, I should have more than just a bed.
and
You
I have,
know?
this is not new, but I think normally what I've seen that makes it a little bit less insulting is that they might have they'll at least have two separate beds, and they'll at least have some type of like privacy screen, even though it's one of those cheap like partition screens, something so you have some semblance of privacy if you need it. You won't ever, if you're sharing a room with somebody, you'll never have privacy. And that's why I always wish that when people do that, you kind of do it as a two front, because there are lots of people, obviously, they cater to um, students, usually international students, or maybe you just have people new to the country and they need to get on their feet until they figure things out. So whether it's a couple or siblings or something, but I think this is like absolutely insulting. And I clicked on the Kijiji ad in the article, and that, of course, that post is gone because I'm sure there was a whole outrage happening
Or it's
with a
rented.
whole,
Or
yeah,
it's been
oh,
rented.
hey, for I who knows,
The
you
thing
know
is,
what?
Jeanette, is that people are starting to get desperate,
But
right?
for Ajax, not. I think if it was in Toronto, it would get rented. But
Maybe, yeah, I could
in
understand
Ajax,
that. But it's the
yeah, man,
amount.
Ajax.
It's the amount, right? Because that's unheard of. Like right now, even for a bed is
But
unheard
can't
of. Like
no.
$500. I don't agree with it. I think that there has to be some sort of zoning law that's against all of that to have more than one occupant in a room. But especially if you're going to be renting it, I think there might be some laws against that. But see, people are being taken advantage of. People are being taken advantage of because that might be all they're getting. They might be on, like you said, an immigrant, or their minimum wage, or they just, because you can't, it's really hard over here in these streets. It's really hard in Toronto and outside areas to get along and to just have a regular schmegular life. Like, you're not balling out of control over here. You just need a roof over your head. you know um I think the person, whoever's renting it, though, is really something else, man. They're really something else to even, because you have to think of mental health nowadays, and people not always being right, and you're gonna go sleep down in a bed beside in one, nah, sir. Nah, fam. That can't work. That no, that could be really dangerous. As a matter of fact, you don't know who you're sleeping beside. You know. But I guess you do what you got to do. When you told me that, I was like, "What? The gall? How dare
Hmm.
you? How dare you? It's so obnoxious."
Yeah. So that's what's going on. That was an interesting story. I hope that they got shamed into taking that post down. Or at the very least, I'm sorry, you shouldn't pay anybody. Nobody should pay more than $250 for that type of situation.
No.
Next story is another good positive story. Is a positive story coming out of Ottawa, and it's about a young woman. I believe she is 12 years old. Her name is Anthea Grace Patricia Dennis. That's an intense name for a very brilliant girl.
Mm-hmm.
She completed her biomedical science degree,
Wow.
and she's graduating from university. And I'm trying to
Wow.
confirm I think it's the University of Ottawa, I believe, where she completed her degree. So obviously, a brilliant young lady, a child prodigy, to
Mm-hmm.
graduate at the age of 12 years old.
Wow.
So her quote, after receiving her biomedical degree, is that she's very happy for herself and that she's proud of getting to this point, despite all the hurdles and blocks there have been for a person like her. And I guess that comment has to do with, to me, she could be biracial or black, but she definitely looks like she's, regardless, she's of black ancestry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's impressive regardless, but it's even that more impressive, as she said, obstacles that might have been in her way of you know prejudice and discrimination. That's natural,
Well, I think it's
especially.
ageism mostly. I think a lot of people might not take her seriously because she's so young. And a lot of these professors, a lot of these professors think very,
Mm,
very, very highly of themselves. So maybe she had some struggles during her career, but either way, kudos to you, girl. Yes,
mm,
put Canada Dep on the map. We have pure
yeah.
genius over here, sir.
I've seen this on a lot of articles and pages, even from the U.S. Social pages, Instagram pages that call this out. Usually, these are pages I follow for inspiration for Black excellence, which we've talked about here on our podcast. Or always want to make sure we're highlighting that. And so one of the highlights before we move on for Anthea is that she finished her paper, a 40-page thesis on
Jeez.
relationship between handedness, minimal, I don't know what that means, and functional activity in the cerebellum, the part of the brain responsible
Oh,
for coordinating balance and movement. So I guess they did explain that to me. So
wow.
we're going to be looking out for this name. Her name is
Yes.
Anthea Grace.
You
And
never know. She
obviously,
could find the cure to something. She could find the cure to something.
listen,
Yes.
this brilliance is going to manifest in a lot of impressive ways. So we'll keep a watch out on this young lady's life and career. I just hope now she can enjoy. Maybe this is her passion and her joy, but I still want her to. Hopefully, she's enjoying her childhood as well.
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yes. So congrats to this young lady. And
Yes.
we will move on into the story. I don't know if we talked about this, maybe not on our episode, but about the young NBA superstar Ja Morant, who got in
Mm-hmm.
trouble a month or two ago for branding a gun firearm in his social media and Instagram. And the first time, a lot of people were disappointed because he's like the new up and coming star, not just for the team he's on, which is the Timberwolves, but also just the NBA. He's the NBA's new young darling. So there's a lot of younger NBA, like NBA stars. The main one, we know who the brand is for the NBA is LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
It's LeBron,
Mm-hmm.
and LeBron is probably going to retire in the next year or two. So this is a new guy, I believe, based on what I've seen and hear. Ja Morant is that guy. He is him, as far as the NBA is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 times he
But he's
got caught.
also a fool too.
And so in March, he was suspended for 8 games because he showed a gun, firearm in a Denver area strip club. And then, not even just 2 months later, the man didn't even let half a year, 6 months go by. Just 2 months later, he was posing again with his firearm in a car on somebody's social media story. And I don't care if you're a friend or who, what, where, and why. Nobody, if your friends are real friends, when you guys are doing like all this fuckboy shit, sorry to
Mm-hmm.
be vulgar, but it's just fuckboy shit straight up. Um, Why is your camera out? Like everybody knows, like as young stars, young black American men, rappers, athletes, the feds have been watching your like social media is the biggest thing getting these celebrities, and yet nobody learns. And so the big anticipation was during the playoffs, NBA playoffs, everybody was waiting for Adam Silver. I believe his name's Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner. Yeah, that's him. He put out a statement saying, yes, we're deciding on its punishment and it will announce after the finals, which I'm glad they decided to wait. And so it came out. I'm To be honest, I was like worried for him. I don't know
Hmm.
if I don't think the way things were going, I don't think they were gonna kick him out of the NBA. But I just felt like the penalty would be
Yeah, they
intense. So
gave
the
him a, like
penalty,
I told you, they gave him a side eye. They gave him a
yeah.
side eye
So it was
before
a
the.
25 game suspension. That's what it is equating to, and I'm assuming because he's suspended for those 25 games, he's not going to get the salary of whatever. If you break down his annual, I think I was looking it up, he makes over 60. His salary is supposed to be over 60 million a year, and then if you break that per game, then you can kind of do some math. But when I did the math, I was like, that is a slap on the wrist. That's a slap on the wrist for this guy.
For me, it
um
was more of a side eye
mm,
because, in the grand scheme of things, he's brought a lot of attention his way. And, there are many brands that are willing to do business with him,
yep.
good or bad publicity, they don't care as long as you have on their product. But what I want to say is that this young man needs to wake up and realize that you're no longer invincible. You're no longer living your life in secret, okay?
Mhm.
Or have all the privacy that you want. No, that those days are done. You're in the spotlight now. People are watching you. People are taking pictures of you. People want to sabotage you, and you need to be smarter than this. The first time, okay, is a mistake. You don't know better. Maybe you're not used to having this type of infamy and so on. And so I could understand. The second time, you're just being stupid now. You're
Mhm.
trying to lose the bag. Like, are supposed to be the new prodigy in basketball. I'm hearing so many great things about you, but it's all being tainted by your actions. And I did want to bring up a point though, because gun culture is big in the States. Unfortunately, we see no matter how many schools get shot up, they still have these gun laws they're not worried about. Nothing is changing in terms of the gun laws. And so, unfortunately, there are a group of people that he is still appealing to while showing his gun. So, I'm not approving of it. I'm just stating facts. And the facts are that the US, they like to bear arms. And there's a lot of people that are very much into the gun culture and are okay with what he did. However, the brand that he's trying to portray and the brand of the actual team and the people that are paying him, it's not going to work. And so I hope that he realizes now, because I think if you have another episode like this, you're on your way out because you're more of a liability to them. And yes, I know they want to make their money off of you. Totally understand it. I totally get it. However, if you are going to do more damage than good, they might cut you loose. So, you should think about what you're doing. You're a young man. You have your life ahead of you. You have a career ahead of you, and don't let trying to floss or trying to pretend to be something that you are not, you know, um, shade or block your vision of what you want for your life. You worked hard to get to this point. It's less than, I think, 2% of actual people in his position would have gotten this far. So don't blow it. Don't blow it. But there's a lot of people who I've seen over the course of this all happening, like Shaq, for instance. They're just like, you're a dummy. You're just a dummy, and that lack of respect, also makes it harder for you to do your job. So, Just stop the nonsense. If you want to really hold a gun that much, then go to a shooting range. Make it look legit, not in somebody's car while they're videotaping you. Like, it looks so sketchy and scandalous. But anyhow,
Yeah.
it is
So
what it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
In
that's
the
his
in the grand
punishment.
scheme of things, this is not a lot of money for him. It's not. It's just
Yeah, it
not.
works out to about seven. Well, it works out to be 7.5 million. And I was just looking for this year. I think they said 34 million is his salary for this year. For that's and that's just to play. He has endorsements. Nike has come out and said they support him. So really, I mean, obviously he'll be okay. But it's more the better. The more important thing is that he learns and sees that he literally almost lost everything, and he wouldn't have.
Literally.
That would have been a disaster for somebody like him. So
Yeah.
hoping that he learns, and we'll see what happens there
We'll see what
next.
happens there.
Okay, so moving on to Kimora. Russell Simmons and Kimora Lee and their daughters had a whole thing around Father's Day, and it was really ugly, and you hate to see it. I think both Kimora Lee, his ex-wife, and Russell Simmons have been controversial in the media.
from
Obviously, we
the
know
from the time that Russell was dating the 16, 17-year-old Kimura. Yeah, they
when
have
he was
been
30.
drama.
Well, he groomed a
Hmm.
yeah, he groomed a 17-year-old when he was 35. So that alone,
Disgusting.
outside of the sexual assault allegations that he ran away from, and which is
Yep.
why he's now based in Bali.
And it won't come back.
um
Hmm.
and he's waiting out the statutes of limitations for the accusations against him. Obviously very questionable character, allegedly, based on what I've seen. I don't know. So anyway, this all started when his oldest daughter Ming Lee posted just something, a happy Father's Day to her mother. And obviously that is, sometimes back in the day you'd see people who have a single mother and they would
Hmm.
do that. I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Hmm.
But everybody knows publicly this is a family that was, even up until after the divorce, he was very close with his daughters. It looked like
And
appearances
active.
and active. That's at least in the appearances of social media. That's what it looked like, right?
Yeah.
So for him to say for her, sorry, to say Ming Lee to say that, obviously that is a something ain't right and like, something ain't clean in the milk, as they say,
Right?
right? So when she did that, she started it, but she was quiet. Then the mother came on, Kimora Lee came on Instagram, and she didn't mention Russell by name, but this person, he was known as this person. I was like, ooh.
Hmm.
And she mentioned that some things where obviously, he essentially is low on funds or is complaining about money. She and her
Hmm.
current husband, who is some successful person, have been helping him with his businesses and his financial situation, maybe out of
Hmm.
guilt, maybe out of obligation. I don't know, but supposedly her and her husband have loaned him money. And then third, that he has stopped giving the girls money a long time ago. Like, so, giving
Yeah,
her
but they're
them a lot.
grown. They're big.
No,
They're
well,
big
they're
and
in
grown.
university. I mean, like, well, they're in university. And again,
Right.
that's a whole, like, obviously there's a point of view there. But let's just say if you're supposedly a millionaire and you're trying to pretend like everything's honky dory, and your daughters are in university, there's nothing wrong. And he wasn't giving them a lot of money. It was like $500 a month. That's something I was getting as somebody who doesn't have a rich parent, like, and didn't
Yeah.
have a job. Like that's and that was struggle money for me.
Right?
And so somebody who's coming from wealth, regardless of anything, they are coming from wealth between both parents. 500. You're just sending your kids $500. That's embarrassing. I'm
Yeah, but
sorry.
I'm
Somebody.
hearing that he's broke though. I'm
Yeah.
hearing that
So
he's broke. So,
yeah. I'm gonna get there. So he obviously, if you're only giving your daughters who are in school $500 a month, that is an indication of brokenness to me for somebody of his stature. A regular person who's working hard that's generous. That's a generous gift. That's amazing if you can afford to even fund your child's education on top of funding their living something, their living situation. That's a generous. Somebody of his
mm,
stature, he should be able to dash, you know, more than quadruple that. But anyway, um So Kimura was saying, hinting at that, she stopped and she whatever. Obviously, it's fine for her to make up for that difference. The weird thing that she mentioned is that he does posts, he sends flowers and gifts to himself to make it look like him or his daughters are sending the gifts. And so he'll send flowers to himself, and then somehow one of his assistants got back to Kimura and said, "Do you know he sends flowers to himself?" And then he'll post it saying it's from you. And I was like, that is a weird flex if I've ever heard one. That is so weird because it's okay if you guys have a falling out. It seems like they were doing good co-parenting until he really hit rock bottom with the funds. Um
Well,
and mm,
a part of that was they were in Kimura and Russell were in a lawsuit in which he lost,
yes, yes, yes,
and he
yes,
had
that's
to
right.
pay her $100,000.
Mm.
So that was probably the 100,000 he planned on living on in Bali.
Hundred
Um,
thousand, or it has to be more than that.
well, I mean, 100,000 goes a far way in Bali, goes a
It
farther way
does,
in
but
Bali than it does up here in Hollywood. So
it
I'm
does,
just
but
saying, sorry,
100,000.
100,000, and that covered her court costs.
Yeah,
So
that's not a lot of money for
she
that.
wasn't trying to be malicious.
Mhm.
She won.
She
She
was owed.
won,
She was owed the money. Yeah.
and she was owed the money, and the judge deemed that there was no fault of her own.
Hmm.
And yeah, he ended up having to pay it. And ever since then, he's been salty and he's been using the girls
Hmm.
as a way to get at his ex-wife. And you know, I'm glad that they can co-parent and everything, but seeing that they're ex-husband and wife, this has
Yeah.
gotten really like messy. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, her children. And you know what? I'm going to say this. I'm. There might be a lot of people who don't like what I have to say about this, but I think Kamora Lee is kind of messy too.
She
And I
is. That's
think,
yeah.
and she has taught her daughters well how to start drama, and hide her hands, because Kamara Lee, you were on there pretty much insinuating the man is gay. Okay, you were also insinuating that he's losing it slowly, like dementia or whatever else. I'm not excusing any of his behavior because it's just wrong the way he's treating his children. They're his children, and up until that point where he lost the case, he was an active dad. He was involved with their life. They had good relationships, and I feel like Aoki, which is the oldest of the two,
No, that's the
sh
younger one that looks like him.
right? Oh, sorry, my
Hmm.
bad. I always get their age mixed up, but so the younger sister is just breaking down, and
Hmm.
I totally understand why, and my heart bleeds for her. But I do find it hard to have a lot of empathy,
Yeah.
only because I feel like this is rich people problems and it needs to stay off of the damn internet.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with your father, then come off of the damn internet and go and call him. Not only that, but you're recording him,
Well,
and
don't call him. Call the police. Go to the police.
well,
Get a
that's
lawyer.
what I'm
Like,
trying to say. Like, if it's not going the way you wanted to go, I just I don't know how this helped. And the
yeah,
older sister, I forgot her name.
Mingly.
Right, Ming Lee. She's the one that started the whole drama. And one thing about people that do things like her, she started the drama and backed out gracefully and let everybody else take the fight.
Well, he's
And
a one. He well, the thing is, it escalated because I feel like obviously there's been something going on in the back end, and there's tension that we didn't know until all of this broke out, right? And so whatever she did something that she maybe probably knew would probably hurt her dad, and in response he posted two posts on his page, saying there memes or whatever, or messages. He just, there are photos from another person's page, but um he's like saying, both basically saying, oh, blaming Kimura. Essentially, the underlying message in those posts that he put was that, oh, it's the mother's fault that you know the children don't respect their dad or their distance from their dad or whatever. And
Well,
this is
they
like
need to take
typical.
their family business off the internet.
Yes, regardless, that's the thing. But what I think is ugly is that um at the end of the day, yes, there is an element of spoiled rich children. We've seen it with Master P
Hmm.
and Romeo, but I think the main thing is at the end of the day, they're like 24. I don't know. They finish university, so they're in the mid
Hmm.
20s range of life, right? They're just they're not kids. I agree, but but their father should have more sense because he's called like the videos they showed of him ranting and raving. He does look unhinged.
Yes,
And you shouldn't give
and
people that. Like
mhm.
even if he's rightfully angry about all of this stuff going public and his private affairs being exposed, you're giving them receipts and ammo to expose you. And I am in no way on Russell Simmons' side. I hate to say, do think he's capable of what he was accused of doing in
Yeah,
the
his karma
90s.
is definitely coming back for him.
But it's more the idea that these particularly the younger daughter, is on here like having a meltdown because of this. It's hard. Why don't you compose yourself? I'm not telling anybody what to do, but when you come on that way, that means there's a lot of emotion and not a lot of rationing going on in this like outlash against your father. You
And you
know?
know what? And you know what? That's family dynamic. Sometimes you're gonna have you know, a big messy fight that you need to work through. However, does it need to be on the internet? Does it need to be everybody else's business? Is this something that could have remained within the family? And from my perspective, yeah. And so that's why I am finding it hard to have empathy to see
Mhm.
her break down like that, to just her being a young, woman who's trying to make strides in her life and
Yeah.
do well. She's a very intelligent young lady. And so to see her break down like that on the internet broke my heart. However, that was a choice.
I agree.
That's a choice. Like when I'm breaking down like that, I don't, oh, let me jump on live. Like,
Yeah, it's a generational thing.
it is a generational thing, but it's also, I feel, it makes it messier because of the people who are involved. If it was Joe Schmo on the side over here with his family, nobody would give two
Nobody
shits,
would care.
okay?
Yeah.
However, these are public figures, and Russell Simmons is a big, he's a big name in hip hop, and he has a lot of strings that he's pulling. And one thing
Yes, that's
about his
another thing.
accusations, I
Hmm.
believe them 110%. Anybody who would flee to another country to wait
Yeah.
out the statutory of limitations on that
Mhm.
particular crime, um yeah, you rub me as guilty. And so therefore when I see you breaking down the way you are and carrying on, I didn't hear the words, but I could tell you were angry.
Mhm.
um and at the wrong, it's directed at the wrong person. I just think that's
Exactly.
what it
I
is.
think the direction is wrong. Like obviously he's frustrated because he's coming from a place where he had a lot of wealth, and obviously in the recent years, a lot of that has most likely dwindled away due to his legal situation and him running away from America. And so that would manifest in a toxic way, especially for anybody. More, and even worse case for a man who's used to having a lot of power and wealth. So that's I think is manifesting in this weird behavior from him. Anyway, we'll see more. That's sad that their Father's Day
Hmm.
um
I wanted to
disintegrated
say
into
though
this.
to
Hmm.
Aoki,
Yeah.
not even so much Ming, because
Mhm.
I feel like she threw out the flames and then ran away. Um, I think you need help, darling. And if nobody has ever told you, you need help. You need someone to talk to. I'm not saying that you have, a mental illness. I just think that you need someone to help you uh
Deal with this family
deal with
drama.
this, and kind of put it in a compartment that you can deal with. outside of the rest of your life, because I feel like you're such a young, intelligent girl. You have so much life to live ahead of you. To be worried about your parents like this, like,
Yeah,
I really do feel poorly for her. But yeah, rich people problems.
yeah,
Anyways, moving
pretty
on.
much.
Another rich people problem. Here we go. Here we go. People.
So we
Hey.
were looking at the story of the week, which is probably going to be the story of the month.
Yup.
It is about this submersive, aka submarine, that
AKA Tonka Toy. AKA Tonka Toy. Them I put down there. The Tonka
um
Toy.
being lost and eventually being destroyed by this nature, Mother Nature, with a five, I believe it's five people in the craft in the submersive. And it's so weird because I was getting ready for work and I listened to the news on an app on my phone, and they're saying, "Oh, submersive news, updated news on submersives caught looking for Titanic, something, something." I was like, "What?" Everything didn't make sense. So it was like I was here. Everything I heard, I was like, "There's five people that went on a submersive, which I'm
Right?
assuming is a submarine, to look at the Titanic
Of all things.
by themselves." and
Like,
the and the submarine was not even certified to go that depth of the
because it
ocean.
was a Tonka toy. It was a little Tonka toy. They want to go to
And
13,000 feet. Like, listen, please, with these people, please.
as the day went on, every new thing, it was like sounding worse and worse for them. And then the main headline the morning I heard of it is to say they had about 40 hours of oxygen left. So that was the headline when I first heard the story. And then as the day or two, the day went by, and I saw people illustrations of how far down they would have to travel in that
Right?
contraption, as far as I'm concerned, to go get to the destination of seeing the ruins of the Titanic. It was over. They were saying it's about 13,000 feet deep into the ocean, like to the point where it's so cold. There's not even any living things. There's not even algae in that part of the ocean. That's how far deep they went in this thing that's about 200 feet in size. And so, like he said, there's five people on board. There was a British adventurer, Hamish Harding, a French veteran explorer, Paul Henry Nagolet, who's probably, I don't know if he was hosting the tour, a British Pakistani businessman, Shahzada Dawood, and his 19-year-old son, who was the youngest person on board, Suleiman, and 61-year-old American Stockton Rush, who was a co-founder of OceanGate, the company that operated this machine. So he was the Stockton Rush is probably the one leading the excursion. But what was interesting to me is that they said there is only 7 or 8 submarines that are certified to go to that depth of the ocean. And you know what was even scarier to her to learn? That the Ocean Gate Titan that these people are on was not certified to go that level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
and let's just not forget that each ticket to go was two hundred and
250
fifty thousand
two
dollars
hundred they paid
each.
250,000 to go on
Okay.
this tour. That's a very important point as we talk about this, because there was a lot of jokes being made. There's the internet was not feeling sorry for them, and some people were
No.
like da, 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 but how. And all honestly, a life going is always bad and sad, but I mean, we really have to think about this here. Like, really, if you write it on paper, it's absolutely ludicrous. You mean to tell me a lot of these people, most likely billionaires, there's at least one billionaire or multimillionaires, they paid this much money to go on a submarine of that size. It didn't look very big. It was, to
Right?
me,
A Tonka toy.
with
Yes.
with a third party remote game controller to navigate it. There was no type of control or connection to above ground to monitor where they were, which I think is crazy to me. Going on any um
Tonka
vessel,
toy. Mm.
going on any vessel for an excursion that like dangerous and not have a tracker? Because the thing is, like these people are missing to me. I'm like, how are they just missing? Like, how is in 2023
They
like such?
weren't. They didn't even get far. Like the ship imploded after about an hour and a half of them being down there. So I
Is
don't
that oh that's
understand
okay?
how you can't find this, I don't know, submersive or whatever. I don't know
Mhm.
how you couldn't find it. It wouldn't have gotten that far where you couldn't have
Yeah.
found it. That whatever uh whatever scanning they could have done from from the top of the
Mhm.
ocean, like from the outside of the ocean, they could have been able to find them. There's a few things I have to say about this. First, money is something if you don't use it wisely.
Yeah.
Now, I can understand explorers because I have that at heart. Like I like to explore, I like to do different things and try different places and stuff like that. I'm not spending $250,000 to go down 13,000 feet if I don't have a military grade submarine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
And
ain't
I need
going
to
no
know
place.
while
I
I'm
need
in that.
military grade, stamped
Hmm.
and approved. I need it to
Hmm.
be certified from the military defense team. Okay, we're not
Yeah.
going no place for 200, and the guy that had his son, that was 500,000 he went down there with. And you're
Mm.
telling me we can't find a tracker. We this is not certified. Like, this is a really poor investment, even if it's an investment of time to explore the world. Let's put in perspective the ocean. Okay, let's
Mm.
just put in perspective. Only 5% of the ocean has actually been discovered. I want us to put that in perspective here.
Ooh.
So you're going down not knowing what the hell is down there. You don't know what's down there. You think you've seen darkness? No, that's a different type of darkness, like you said when we were talking about it briefly. Light don't touch down there, so.
Mm.
Light don't touch down there, so. So what is down there? There's lots of cultural, ideas of what is in the water. I know as a young kid, my mom always told me, like when we went to Jamaica, for instance, no, but I go into the deep, deep water. No, 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 stay on the shore. There's always in different cultures different ideas of what's down into this ocean. We have no idea. Okay, and for you to go put out that much money to go down and see the Titanic, it's not even like you're discovering anything new. You're going down to see something that was destroyed how many hundreds of years, not hundreds, but donkey years ago. For what? Go look up the documentary like the rest of us, brethren. First and second, what I find really, puzzling about this situation, and I'm starting to lean to a conspiracy theory here,
Yeah.
is that how are these intelligent men, okay, these are highly intelligent men who are capable of being billionaires, gonna go on this little doohickey that can't be traced? Like, I just don't understand that concept. I don't see someone of that stature being so reckless, but I guess so. And here's what my real problem is, my number three with this thing, is how the media spun this. Okay, the media, the government, they had this on clockwise, like the whole time it was on. Okay, they're counting down how much air they have. They spent $6.5 million to have people go and try to find these people. In these five people, they spent $6.5 million of the taxes of the U.S. citizens to go and fund an exploration to go find these damn people who signed up for themselves. So again, this rich people problems. Like, honestly, I have a hard time when I see 300 Palestinians, okay, off the coast of Greece died. Where's the media coverage? Where's the outrage? Where's the around the clock? Like I find it so hard to feel any sort of way for these people. Now, here's what. So no one thinks that I'm just a really nasty heifer out here. Okay, life leaving is never easy. It's never okay. I'm sad that they lost their life. Okay? But I find it easier to have empathy for people like the Palestinians who, off of the coast of Greece, were trying to
Yes.
run
Yeah.
from their country, from being slaves, okay,
Mm.
and tried to find refuge in another country. They were trying their best to get out of a really bad situation. I find it easier to have empathy for them, but the media doesn't. These people on this submarine were dead from Sunday last week. They dead. They an hour and a half into their journey, it imploded.
Yeah.
So they had no air, they had no oxygen, they died.
They died instantly.
Okay? So but look at the media coverage behind it. There's 300 people and you don't hear nothing about this. Now I understand these are, billionaires or whatever the case might be, but there's still a person and it's still a life being lost. So I find it very difficult to have a lot of empathy in this situation again. And to find out that one of those passengers, the young man, the 19-year-old, didn't even want to go. He was scared. He didn't want to go. Something was telling him, God was telling him, listen, sir, you're not, don't go on the Tonka toy to go down in the depths of the ocean, please. You don't know what's down there. No matter with it. You don't need
Yeah,
to
because
know.
what 19-year-old cares about the Titanic?
Thank
Like,
you. And
you can
supposedly
watch the movie and get
it was
it.
supposed to be a bonding moment between son and father for Father's Day. And I
Okay.
and I just find it so ironic how that ended up turning out. Um to be quite honest, I feel poorly for the families of these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's who I really feel sorry for because they had this was like torture. They had to watch a countdown of when
Yeah, that was pretty gruesome.
that's kind of demonic when you think about what they were actually doing. They're counting down the life of somebody. So, I had a real hard time with this one. But I will say, RIP to all the lives that were lost on that doohickey. And let this be a cautionary tale. If ever you want to explore the depths of the ocean, please be prepared. You don't know what the hell's down there. Please don't go into a doohickey. If you're going to spend $250,000, can you at least make sure it's a military grade submarine, please? I don't think it can be explored. I don't think you can go down there without there, kind of being turbulence or some issue of some kind. We don't know what's down there. And furthermore, can the Titanic just be where it is? Why is everybody so fascinated with this Titanic? I know there's a lot of political business that goes around the Titanic. I get it. There's a lot of conspiracies about the Titanic. I get it. However, it's down there and it's been down there for donkey ass years. There ain't nothing that you're going to get to see. It's in the depths of the darkest parts of the ocean. What do you think you're going to see? I don't know. But whatever. Hey, hey, those people, the family of those people, my heart goes out to you. I hope you can get through this moment. I know that you'll be fine financially. For the people, who are less fortunate, like the 300 in Greece, you know, this is a water month. The sign of water is right now. And so we got to pay attention to these stories and don't let them just go to waste. We have to learn something from this. I really find it hard why these billionaires would even think that that would be okay. I don't know. I don't know. There's something fishy. Something, is in the buttermilk. I don't know. Something ain't right. But let's move on into the music news then.
Yeah, so just a quick shout out. Recently learned by listening to old grouchy Joe Budden that there has not
Ugh.
been a number one hip hop record for this
Very
year.
long time.
For
Mm-hmm.
this year. And this is supposedly the 50th anniversary of hip hop this year. It is. It is the
Mm-mm.
50th anniversary of hip hop this year. And that's crazy because hip hop has had a crazy run since it came mainstream.
Mm-mm.
And so that was interesting. And then so Killer Mike, who's an Atlanta hip hop artist, who he's been around. The thing with Killer Mike is he to me, I will see for like I won't know a whole Killer Mike album. He actually does have a partnership with this white guy. I'm sorry, I can't remember that his name, but they called Run the Jewels, and I've heard those albums, and they're really good. I think you would like them too, Kim,
Yeah.
because they're like
I like
very
Killer
like
Mike. Killer Mike
yeah,
has some good
he's
songs.
like very involved in the community. Like even if I can't say like a name, well now I can now name a Killer Mike album, which is called Michael. And so he was doing a press run and he was on the Breakfast Club and he was talking about a lot of things and obviously promoting the album. So the way he was talking about the album, the way everybody, I was like, sometimes when you do these press runs, everybody's going to big you up. But I said, you know what, it's Killer Mike. And Killer Mike actually does do quality music when it comes to actual content, right?
Yeah.
And so I listened to Michael, and I've seen actually a few videos come out. He's done a really smart rollout, very creative. Where he had a video with Dave Chappelle for the song "Run." He's and then when I kind of looked him up, I was like, oh, there's two more other videos he did. So he's doing a really professional layout for this album
Oh, that's nice.
called Michael, and it's actually really beautiful because he talks about the death of his mother and his grandmother, and just trying to like evolve and mature as a husband and as a father. As you know, strictly speaking, it's grown folks hip hop. It's grown
Mm-hmm.
man hip hop. But you know what? Even though sometimes people are like, oh, that's corny, da da da. But I say in the production, like the one thing about him is he's always gonna have a nice flow, and the content is
Mm-hmm.
gonna be quality content. But what I think what he did, the collabs and the actual production, ooh, A1.
Right?
And so I haven't had a chance to really sit down and I've kind of been listening to it on mute, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
I keep on, when the first four songs are so good, I keep on going back. So I haven't actually given the album a full listen. But I'm
Mm.
coming here, listeners, to tell you I don't need to give it a full listen. I can tell you from what I heard and what I've seen, it's
Mm-hmm.
worth a listen and check out the videos. Very like I literally cried for his video that
Oh
he had.
wow.
The video that he has with Aaron Allen Kane is a vocalist, but it's called Motherless. Watch that video while you listen to the song.
Motherless.
It's yeah, I was literally because sometimes one of those things like back in the day, you think, oh, what if my mom wasn't here? And that alone, you'd be like, Lord God, they can't. It's natural, it's a
Mm-mm.
part of life. But
Yes, it's true.
when you hear about people, we're lucky. We're lucky that we still have our mothers because a lot of people
Yes. Yes, we
don't
are.
have them, and it was a reminder of that. Even when he was talking
Yes.
about it on the Breakfast Club, even that interview he did with the Breakfast Club was also really really good as well. He sold me on the album on that. That's all I have to say. But
Okay.
anyway, so he's the intro. Here's some of the collabs. Here are the highlights. He has a intro with CeeLo Green. He has a song called "Run" with Young Thug, and they don't have it in the credits, but I know Dave Chappelle is on the intro of that. And
Okay.
here's a big one, everybody. He has a track with Andre 3000. It's a really
What?
good song,
Andre
actually.
3000 making music again? What the hell
And
is going on?
Future, we know Future is a fuck boy, but this is
Yeah, he
this seems
is.
to be the song. It's Scientists and Engineers, and it's Andre 3000 again, Aaron Allen Kane and Future. Aaron Allen Kane, I actually have to call her out. I actually have a song on one of my playlists with her. I don't know. It's like one of those people you hear a song. I don't know who they are. I've never seen them, but damn, this is a good song. So I've known the name because I have her on one of my playlists, my R&B playlists that I listen to all the time. So I'm happy
Mm-hmm.
that she's featured on at least three of his songs on this album. As well as a
Oh,
song
wow.
with Blast, and then he has a song with Fabo. Fabo, I'm assuming, is that Fabulous? No, I think if it was Fabulous, it'd say Fabulous, so that's not. And a Ty Dollar sign, and Ty Dollar sorry, Ty Dollar Sign is a Billboard darling when it comes to making hits. So yeah, this is me only listening to about 30 or 40% of the album, but from what I've heard, I was so impressed. It's like, damn, no, this is a music news. You guys check this shit out. It's like He's
Mm-hmm.
bringing life back, breathing life back into hip hop, because right now it's a weird place.
A funk. It's in
It's
a
in a
funk.
funk. So yeah,
It
that's it.
definitely is. So I
Mhm.
will give it a listen because I do love me some hip hop. And, Killer Mike, even from back in the day, he's always been tight with his rhymes and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I will definitely give him a listen. But for now, we're going to move on into the workouts.
Workout.
Yes, the workout. This is where, we work out our hearts and exercise our mental fitness by doing deep dive discussions on issues that are affecting us in our communities or in life. And so, one topic that we wanted to discuss was, why is a sense of community so important? Now, let's define the word community quickly. So, within our Black community, um, there are certain things that we do, that we're a part of, the music, the food, that comprises our community on a whole.
Mhm.
And, it's very important at times to feel like you have that community there for you. Now, one example of how much it was important to us was living in Windsor, Ontario. Now, Windsor, Ontario is a place where there um there wasn't a whole lot of that Black community present.
Mm.
However, when you go to the university, I would say at least 60 to 70% of the students are from Toronto and surrounding areas: Brampton, Mississauga, Markham,
Mm.
Scarborough, all of that. And, us kids, we go down there with bright eyed, with the world that we want to see and learn as much as we can. But it was a bit of a culture shock because it's not what we're used to. We're
Mhm.
coming from a big city where community is everywhere we turn. You can go and get yourself a patty at just about anywhere. Okay. Um, Having a sense of community while away at school was important to us to keep us grounded and to keep us sane at times. Have somewhere that you're going to hear your music and you can eat your food, you know, and the people around you understand you and you understand them. Now, living in Windsor, there was a community, but I felt, because I had it from both two different perspectives, that there was a community heavily in the university because a lot of, like I said, a lot of the students came from out of town, 4 hours away. So where we're located right now and where Windsor is approximately 4 hours away. And so, it's a smaller city, very small, almost
4 hours
town-like.
away, on the border of Detroit in
That's
Canada,
correct.
right? America
So
and Canada.
yes, and we had both a tunnel and a bridge that we could connect over to the States. Now, the States' influence was heavy in
Mm.
Windsor.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, the influence and the communities that were built in the States were very much influenced in Windsor, Ontario. Um, but there, for me, was two separate communities. There was the community that was from the school that was mostly, located from, relocated to the school from Toronto and surrounding areas. And then there were the actual people that lived, born and raised in Windsor. And that community was different. You didn't, their community was more geared towards the American experience versus, being in a community at the school of, University of Windsor. The Black students, we all kind of came together, and so we could hear our music and, talk our lingo and be around people that were familiar with us and how we lived, because it was very different in Windsor. It's a smaller scale. At that time, I'll give an example. If you went to a club in Toronto at that time, you couldn't wear jeans to the club. You couldn't have on a cap backwards. You couldn't do any of that. The ladies had to dress in pants and, and things like that. Then we came over here to Windsor, and you could literally see people in the club in their pajamas. Literally. Literally see it. So that's where the culture shock came about. And so we kind of clung to the community that uh, was developed through the school. Um, I felt like it was really important because I'm always looking for that one black person in the room. I'm
Mm,
sorry. I don't care what nobody wants to tell me. I want to see that I'm not the only one.
yeah.
Okay? I want to feel like I have an outlet that I can utilize. I want to know that the people around me in my community understand me and what makes me who I am. And a part of it is what we eat, how we dress, how we do our hair, our individuality, the music that we listen to, calypso and reggae and hip hop and you know um yeah, so it was very important to me. It kept me grounded. It kept me it was a lot of fun. We had a good old funky time. We did come out of there with degrees, which was good because the community also helped us, the people in it helped us to also focus and helped us to study and helped us to get through those harder moments. So that's just my take on, the community that was developed in Windsor. The actual Windsorites, I guess I would call them, their community was highly influenced on the States, so I found it hard to connect to that community. I really did. I
Mhm.
could understand it. Yeah, we see the rappers on TV. Yeah, we see, you know, their slang and how they dress and what they eat and all of that. We get it. However, you're not in the States, you're in Canada. So I find it very hard to connect to that community because that community is connecting to something that's not really them. But anywho, as I digress, what was your experience? Now, why do you think that community is important, Jeanette? Why do you think, with our example
With
of
that
living in Windsor?
example, yeah, with that
Mm-hmm.
example of living in Windsor, where really I learned by the time I finished my time there, where I was like, when I reflect on how was how was, what made that fun or what made that bearable? Because the first time I moved there, it was like a shock for me. It was a shock for me, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But it was important because our little group of people from the GTA,
Yep.
we got a chance to, just through that sense of being, okay, we're all people who picked up and left our homes 4 hours away to come to this school in this very small town that didn't feel anything like Toronto. And so by meeting some people from the GTA area, the Greater Toronto area, I had people that I could like lean on, and we could share stories and learn from each other, and like we celebrate each other, where when we'd have, local DJs come from Toronto to come there, we celebrate our culture in Windsor, because being in Windsor meant there was a huge dichotomy between, I don't want to say this, but I have to say it. Like, Windsor was in a small town which surrounded by a lot of agricultural communities. So
Yes.
Kim said something about a lot of students from the GTA, but I would say a majority of the students are probably from international and from that surrounding area. So we were definitely a minority. I would have to say that, in my opinion. And so it was interesting and great to see when we'd have entertainers that come from Toronto that would cater to us in a bar,
Yep.
like when we're at a
Mm-hmm.
bar, and we get to hear our music versus hearing, nothing wrong with it, but honky tonk and classic rock, 80s rock. And then the dichotomy, if you want to air quotes, black music for them was a sound that we were not familiar with. And it's a Detroit hip hop, which is very distinct and very
Yep. Very,
not
very
like,
distinct. Yeah.
it's not even anything that you hear on the radio, to be honest. It was a very distinct style of hip hop that I just didn't get.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
but
Found
it
it
was
hard.
interesting to learn. It was definitely interesting to learn about it. And so the community, what was the question you asked me again? Sorry.
So I was asking
Mhm.
you, why do you think that it was important
Oh
to
yes,
have
yes, yes.
said community
Okay,
while
yeah. So
there?
getting
Mhm.
that's where I was going with this. So just setting the scene. So that's the situation. So
Mhm.
why it was so important to come and meet people that not only were from Toronto or the Greater Toronto area, but like from Scarborough in particular, which is where we grew up and went to
Yep.
school.
Yep.
We at the end of the day, like we naturally, as we met new people, we gravitated and like we said, we helped each other, we learned from each other, we grieved together when some things were messed up, and not having our families and maybe some of our friends that we left back at home, it was so helpful. Like even when I first came, I was, I will be honest and say that I had a very sheltered life, and I came there a year after my sister had died. So leaving my family was very, very, I needed to do it, but it was also very hard. So the first week
Right.
there, I was like so depressed. And a lot of people, my roommate was, my friend that I know from school, and she had let people know that. And a lot of people rallied around me to make me feel welcome. And like all of that, like that helped me a lot, at least to get
Yeah.
acclimated, that first shock of
Yeah.
leaving my home. Forget that I'm here in this dorm, but I left my family in a very, it was a crazy time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it helped to have meet these people, and we had our small little family. Like if rent wasn't good, or say, there was issues sometimes where somebody had a roommate and the situation was so unbearable, somebody could come over to our place
Yep.
and stay there for a night and get a breather, or vice versa. Thank God I never had to leave my place because I love my home. But like I've
Yeah.
seen it, so I
Mhm.
I know, me
I
being,
had to
I
do
was
it once or
community.
twice. Trust me,
Yeah,
I
I
had
know
to
you
do
did.
it.
Yeah, I know you did. So I know that I was that for other people, and other people were there for me in other ways.
Yep. Yep.
And again, being away from your family, that is so important, so important. And whether you get it from church,
Yep.
whether you get it from a sports team, or like if you're on a club, some type of
Yeah.
club, people listening, if you're ever, even if everything's good and you feel like life is amazing and things are happy, there's going to be a time, life is not
Mhm.
always like that. There's going to be a time when you need outside community, outside of what your home life is. So, for many people in
Well,
our
that
Black
leads into the
community.
next question that I had,
Mhm.
which was, were there other places or times where you felt surrounded by your community? And yeah, very much so. Windsor, leaving home and going away to Windsor
Mhm.
was, I think, the biggest example of that for
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
However, the church definitely, it gives me a sense of community. I feel involved and a part of something that's bigger than just day to day life,
Yeah.
um, and that being able to help in whatever way, shape, or form that I can. Church does give me that. It does.
Yeah.
You know.
When there's celebrate, they help you celebrate your joys, and if
Yeah,
you come on hard times,
they're
they
there.
excuse me, sorry, I had a little sneeze there, and they support you in those dark times or troubled times. So always, yeah, church is a good one. But I wanted to share something fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about being support for friends when, your living situation. We're in school, we had roommates.
Yeah.
I mean, Kim was lucky enough not to have a roommate in her last year, but I think
You're
she'd been
damn
through.
right. I was finished with the roommate thing. You
She
see
was.
me?
She's been through enough
I
to
was
know.
done with it. People want to show up in my boots. Now I'm done. I'm
So,
done. Okay.
one time, well, before she was on her own, she was living in a home, and we were all, a few of us were there, still stayed over to do some extra courses over
Yeah.
summer a break. And I think I remember you and it was only you and one other roommate, and your house got broken into. I know there's a
Yeah.
bigger story there, but let's focus on the fact that your house got broken into.
Yeah. There was a
And
lot to that, but yeah.
I
Hmm.
think I was there, and I think one of my other roommates were there. I can't remember which one of them, but one of my other roommates were there. And so I was across the street. I was like, "Oh no!" And I don't know why. after the police came, I stayed over. You guys were scared, and I stayed over there. And to this day, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
why the
You both
hell did
did. You both did. And I was like, that's real ride or dies right there
no? But
because
after is like, and when I think about the story, I'm like, why the hell did we stay there? They should have came
but
over to our
we should
house
have went to, yeah, but you know what? We had to stay there because
in
we
case
couldn't
anybody came.
we had to face the fear.
Yeah, true. That's true. You need to be comfortable in your home again. Yeah, that's
You
true.
have to face
That's
the
true.
fear. Unfortunately, that was the second time
That
ever
is
in my
scary.
life that ever
Mhm.
happened. But yes, I'm so glad you brought that up because that was a real sense of community. That was
Yeah,
a real sense of like, okay, we're not out here, by ourselves. Like we have people that care enough. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? And yeah, when that went down, I was like, yeah, it was nice to know that we had somebody that we could at least call. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And even if you didn't come over and stay over that day, that night, right? That you were at least there to talk to and
Yes.
walk
Yeah.
through it, with
Mhm.
us. But yeah, that was hard. That was hard because we're already away from everything that we know to be comfortable. Okay.
Mhm.
And now staying in the city, usually most people that were there left and went home to Toronto.
For the
So
summer.
there
Yeah.
wasn't a there wasn't a lot of us that stayed behind. So to know that there was still, representation of a community there for us to help us through it. It was really, really a good time to have that, especially at that time. Um, I feel like community is very important, but you got to find the right one.
The right one. The
You got
right
to be a
one.
part of the right one because the wrong community might bring you down a
Why do you
path.
say that? Is there something you're thinking about why you brought that up?
Well, you know what? Because sometimes, you might think that you're a part of a community that cares about you. I'll give an
Mhm.
example, a gang.
Oh yes, that's a good one. That's a good
You might
example.
think that it's a community that cares, but not necessarily, right? So you got to be careful with the communities that you call your community.
And
You
I
got
think
to be careful with that because they could be leading you down the wrong
the
path.
wrong path. And and what I think the theme would be when you think about that example of gangs is if it's rooted in if
That's
you
right.
connect if you what they say trauma bonding pretty much is where I'm
Yes.
going with this. It's that you joining that is rooted in trauma or not having or you don't have any support for your
Right.
family or you're pretty much neglected
Right.
generally. If you're
Yeah.
joining a gang, you're in a situation where your parents can't pay a lot of attention to you
Exactly.
generally, or you just felt like you said you fell into the wrong friend group, but like that negativity, you join just like they say cults. What
Yep.
I hate this cult. There's a thin line between some of these church groups and a cult, but that's a
Yes,
whole nother
it is.
episode.
We've
We
talked about
actually
it in
talked
other
about
shows. We have.
we did talk about this
Hmm.
when we talked about our religion episode. Everybody go check that out. Or
Yes.
what was it? Black something about the
Black
black
church
church.
is
Black church.
black churches are black. Yeah, it was black church, something
Going
like
to
that. I
church
can't
while
remember
black. I
exactly
think
the name right now.
it was going to church while black. I think that
There
was
you
episode.
go. Going to church while black. Well, we have to do another one of those series. But
Yeah,
yeah,
catch up on that. Yeah, so that was the episode. But yeah, anyway, so that why is this community coming about? Is it rooted in pain? Is
thank
it
you.
rooted in anything negative?
Ask
And
yourself these questions.
yeah, that's it. That's all I'm saying. And if they are, obviously, it's feeding something, but that means you still need to counteract that. Um,
Right? Right.
it's something
Right.
positive and life
Hmm.
affirming. But yeah.
And I think community in general is when it's the right one, it can
Mhm.
really make a difference in a person's life.
We need it as humans. I think. I think
I
it's not
think we
even.
do. I think
Yeah.
it's important. And I know I don't like to always make it a race thing, but I am going to take it a step farther and say that having a black community, it does so much for the quality of black lives.
I
And I
agree.
say that because communities that are black, there's a variety of things that they have to offer. Not just someone to call or someone to, help you get through something. but they also pass on things from the past. They also pass on legacies. Like for instance, when we were in Windsor, there were many clubs that got together and put together what they call sports weekend. Sports weekend started because a group of people in different clubs said, you know what, let's put together an occasion where we can all celebrate, we can all party, we can all hear our music. And that grew. And sports weekend turned into something that even to this day, people go from all walks of life, all over the place, go down to the little Windsor, Ontario for. Okay, to this day. I'm talking big name brands, like, big famous people, Beanie Man, Elephant Man. We saw them perform. You understand? So it was a way for them to keep a legacy going. Our communities keep legacies going. And so we have to remember that when we are a part of an actual community, that we have something to offer, to bring, to carry forward, because that's the only way that our communities will survive.
Carry forward and pass down.
Yeah, exactly. And all the things in between, all of the old folks' tales, all of the things that generations past have to offer to the new generations, a way to connect generations, close the gap on generations. So, all in all, I feel like a community, the Black community specifically, is very important in my life. And wherever I can be a part of it, I do definitely try. And so with that being said, I think this was an awesome comeback show. We missed y'all, but we gotta go. And so with that said, we do hope that your hearts and your minds were activated on this week's show. So whether you lead with your heart or your mind, please stay passionate and thoughtful. We will holler back real soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.